At 4ZZZ, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we broadcast. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging of the Turrbal and Jagera people. We acknowledge that their sovereignty over this land was never ceded,
and we stand in solidarity with them.
You're listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ, amplifying the trans and gender non-conforming voices of Brisbane and beyond.
Hello, and welcome to Transmissions.
Yeah.
My name's Alexis.
And my name is Sean, your abomination about town, and my pronouns are a social representation of my meat prison, she, her.
I'm a she, they, by the way. I don't have a preamble into that. I'm not nearly that fancy.
But just wait for the pun game. Alexis, your pronouns are pandemonium, she, they.
Yeah, pandemonium. That's definitely much more like it. Okay, we've got an extra special Transmissions today. We're going to talk about some strategic knifing.
Yes, actually. So, as it turns out...
we should be a little bit more clear about that.
We really should.
We absolutely mean various feminization surgeries.
Yeah, so Alexis and I are both trans feminine people, and we have been spending a bit of time together talking about our feelings on the medicalization process of transition, specifically around surgery. So just, top of the hour, want to flag that if anyone feels a little squeamish or uncomfortable about conversations about surgical medicalization of transition, this might not be the episode for you. Don't worry, we're not going to be too gory in our detail, but we are going to be talking about surgical procedures at some point in this hour.
This may be the one if you're to miss out on if you're feeling a little squeamish, that's for sure. But we will keep it as professional as we possibly can. Make sure that we don't do anything too massively irrational. We should probably do some station promotion stuff. Like, if you would like to text in and be part of the conversation today, 0420 626 733 is our phone number. I'll be keeping an eye on the text line all day. We'll do our best to answer questions if we can within the broadcast limits that we're set and within the personal boundaries that we set for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you want some help, we will do our best. That is our promise. Also, if you'd like to keep things like this going, you should subscribe to 4ZZZ, 4ZZZ.org.au/support. A subscription can cost as little as $25. It is $80 for a full subscription. If you're feeling particularly generous, you can make a passionate subscription to the station for $140, and it is $500 for a super sub, and we'll write your name up on the wall. And thank you for all of your support for music, news, and all the good stuff we do here at 4ZZZ.
Yeah, the subscriptions here at Zed are vital. And yes, there is a huge amount of benefits that you get: discounts in stores, you get to be part of the community, you get to engage. But the cost of a full subscription, $80 a year, it's less than the cost of a cup of coffee a month. Like, it is not a huge amount, and you paying that isn't just about paying for your access and keeping this going. You are paying for others who are unable to pay. There are plenty of listeners out there, and so shout out to all those people who are either incarcerated, beyond wage, living in difficult means with disability, being required to be a carer, where $80 a year is a significant amount of money. And so for those of you who can subscribe, you aren't just helping us, you are helping those individuals have access to a community and a network. So hey, have a think about it.
Yeah, we absolutely do recommend that you subscribe responsibly, only to the amount that you can afford to give us. We'll entertain you either way, but please, if you can, definitely subscribe today.
It's a model based on soundness. You do for others around you, each to their means, each to their capability.
All right, so let's talk about the news.
Oh God, it's been a whole thing, hasn't it?
Yes, the news brought to you by the The federal government.
Proud
sponsors of getting it wrong.
Supposed to be getting it wrong. I feel like there's a whole series of jokes I could have been writing about, like a circus and seeing acrobats backflipping and backflipping backflips.
Well, certainly
and backflipping backflips. You know?
Our friend the Backflip did feature all week, with the Albanese government struggling to figure out how it was going to measure for LGBTIQ people in the census.
After the sort of shockingly difficult and problematic census questions around this in 2021, a review had been instigated into how to include gender non-conforming and queer folks into the census. And on Friday, it was announced, it was released what the questions, the scrapped questions were going to be. And the huge response in that 48 hours prompted the treasurer to backflip a backflip and say, "Oh, no, we'll include the queers this time." So thanks for not having the strength of your convictions to just know what was right in the first place and just, listening to the outraged population. So, I mean, that's not much of a win, but it's a win.
Yeah. The politics of this is wild. Like, my interest is in politics. Everyone sort of knows that I'm a politics person. I still don't understand why they went down this particular line, knowing very specifically that it was going to look bad regardless of the outcome. They could have just let the questions fly and, dealt with that problem when the census came out. But no, apparently intervention was the best way, they thought. The word being that they were trying to avoid a culture war, which was unavoidable.
But also by picking a side of a status quo, as we understand, is perpetuating a culture war. One could argue that the act of removing those questions, is them planting a flag very specifically on one side of a culture war that already exists. And
certainly,
pardon my language users, but fuck that logic.
Yeah, and certainly Albanese's approach to this has been, let's say, wildly inconsistent while he's been Prime Minister of the country and leader of the Labour Party, with things like LGBTIQ policies being heavily shortened in their length for the Labour Party's platform. And then there's the religious discrimination bill stuff, which is an ongoing thing.
Yeah, horrifying.
So, yeah, I don't know what to tell you other than it's very clear that the Prime Minister has mixed feelings about all of these things.
Yeah.
At best.
It reminds me way back when, you remember when, sort of Australia was doing the referendum around becoming a republic, and the shaping of those questions was very specifically weighted, and there was a lot of problems around that. And it made me think about it looks like we will now get questions in the census about queer folk and their identities.
And
but I don't trust that those questions are actually still even going to answer the thing that we want, i.e. counting the number of individuals in this country who are trans, intersex and non-binary, counting the number of individuals who identify as queer, and ensuring that the government is held to account to accommodate that part of their electorate. I still don't trust that is going to be the outcome. But hey, they're going to give it a red hot go. And there's one thing we love in the Australian government is politicians just having a go.
Having a go.
Have a go to get a go.
Oh, yeah. Those times are worth mentioning every other occasion too. All right. And that's news.
Yeah, that's the news. So, in order to lighten the mood, we're now going to talk about surgically having your face removed. Okay.
Yes, of course. All right. We got a text in.
Oh, we did. We did. We're going to read it out?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. So someone wrote into us telling us that, saying, my surgery is in 7 weeks and 6 days. Spelled with lots of Zs. We appreciate that in text messages. I don't have many trans friends, so I'm pretty much hoping that you'll all give me a wahoo, some good luck. You absolutely have trans friends. You're listening to them here on Tranzmission at 4ZZZ. Absolutely. Honey, absolutely best of luck for 7 weeks, 6 days from now when you are admitted and go under the knife. Yes, one of the reasons why we're talking about this today is because in 2 weeks I will be admitted to a hospital and I will be having facial feminization surgery.
Yeah.
So wahoo for both of us, I guess.
Indeed. So I actually got my notes out in front of me.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so at the top of this, everybody, I just want to flag a couple of content warnings. Firstly, we appreciate the full spectrum of expression in our lives, and so you're going to hear some swears. If swears are a problem for you,
today may not be the day.
That may not be the day, and that's okay. But I occasionally might have to swear loudly at some point when I consider the fact that in 2 weeks, yes, a man is going to be flaying my face and neck. And on that note, we are going to be talking about and describing transmedicalization, medical procedures related to shifting and changing a body, specifically around the experiences of Alexis and myself, who are trans feminine. So content warning, there will be some of these conversations. There's also some limitations on what we can discuss herein as well, just to flag that we will at no point be saying names of physicians, clinics, hospitals. There is really strict rules around what counts as a testimonial, and that could be and these professionals who are helping people like me and Alexis could see serious negative consequences if I was to start shouting out names and saying how good they were. So, that kind of brings me to the next point of how important having these conversations with your community is. Because sharing knowledge one-to-one is very important. And so if you have experience with transmedicalization processes, please do tell your friends and your family and your community about them, because the avenues with which they can find out publicly have some severe limitations under Australian law.
Also, we should all say that this is not medical advice.
Absolutely.
Nothing that we're talking about today is medical advice.
We are in no way advocating that anyone undergo any of the procedures that we are discussing, and we are purely talking about our own personal experiences and how they have made us feel.
And if you do want to pursue this particular line, you should definitely talk to a doctor or a physician or a surgeon about your options.
Yes, absolutely. So, shall we begin?
Yeah, we've now gone 28 minutes without...
already have. We haven't even... Yeah.
A terrible tease so far.
It is. I love a tease. So let's talk about things broadly. We're going to be using a few different terminologies. For those of you who might not know, we would refer to things as FFS, facial feminization surgery. Yes,
that does have a different meaning. Yes, the entire trans community does use the other meaning to refer to the surgery.
I do love it. So we're going to be talking about... There is a suite of medical procedures, surgical cosmetic procedures that a person can undergo. Now, the interesting thing that I find about these procedures is that outside of things like chest masculinization, otherwise known as top surgery, or genital, what gets referred to as sex reassignment surgery, SRS, the vast majority of other medical procedures, both surgical and non-surgical, that transgender people undergo are no different from the procedures that cisgender people undergo. Even the medication that I take, the hormone therapy that both Alexis and I take, the estrogen is functionally the same as what could be prescribed to a cisgender woman undergoing menopause. The testosterone blockers are the exact same drug that is prescribed to men combating hair loss. Everything from hair loss to helping reduce the impact and size of tumours relating to prostate cancer. Hell, even the testosterone blocker that I take is the same one that's prescribed to women suffering from polycystic ovaries to help combat the effects of the hormonal imbalance that comes with that. Yeah. So, these are legitimate medical procedures that are available to cisgendered people, but they are gate-kept from trans people who are using them for an off-brand purpose.
Yeah, so they do refer to it as off-label purposes. And off-label purposes have a little bit of a strange place in medicine in Australia. Off-label purposes can be covered by the PBS, but are occasionally not covered by the PBS. So things like those testosterone blockers that help with hair, their off-label use is not covered by the PBS, but the common drugs used for estrogen replacement are PBS. It's a very confusing system.
That's fine. We're used to having confusion and doubt. It's something that we live with every day. So as for with those procedures, there is a suite of cosmetic procedures that exist in the world that I know that I've undergone. Everything from laser hair removal, because I had a magnificent lumberjack beard. I had this giant bushy thing hanging off my face. It was magnificent. But I underwent a significant amount of laser treatment to remove that. And this surgery, the facial feminization surgery that I'm scheduled to have in a couple of weeks, isn't my first surgery. I had liposuction to craft my waistline to give me a more hourglass shape. I mean, I'm never going to be a 1950s bombshell, sure, but I think it's gone all right. I've enjoyed it. Best $7,000 I ever spent, although it was harrowing.
Oh, I would imagine.
It was harrowing. What about you? Alexis, tell me about your history with all of this stuff.
Okay, so I should probably start sort of back in the sort of, 7-ish years ago sort of territory. I didn't know how far things would go. I knew I wanted to transition. I didn't know how far it was all going to go. We started with medical transition as the point. And it should be said that a lot of changes in the body don't require surgery. So
absolutely.
If you can't afford a surgery, do not panic. There's plenty of progress you can make with medications alone.
Absolutely.
And it will redistribute a little bit of your fat. And if you are specifically desiring it, you will get the bobbles.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, and just to flag here, even without that waistline crafting liposuction surgery where they literally siphoned 2 liters of fat out of me, I was doing quite well on just the hormones. And also, just to make sure it's very clear for anyone listening in, you don't owe anyone anything in regards to your transition. Medical transition is its own thing. You absolutely can be considered trans and should be considered trans if you so desire. The physical changes and transformation that often go along with it are not an obligation that you owe into the world. Same with socially transitioning. You are not obligated to change who you are in order to make the others around you comfortable. Your transition and how it is defined is your own. It just so happens that Alexis and I are 2 girlies who like to get about and are interested in doing some things.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I also did some laser as well. The smell of burning popcorn. How could I possibly forget?
Yeah, I've had significant laser on. I did all of the underarms and pubic region. That's a time.
Face is always the most...
Face is brutal.
In terms of actual cost, it's a way cheaper cost than, say, your surgeries. But probably more expensive than your medications. Yeah,
absolutely. In Australia, the cost of laser is dramatically less than it is, say, in the US. There are, your common everyday shopping centre laser clinics. You'd be looking at $60 a session for a face that would require 10 to 12 to 15 sessions all up, and they often are the places that do discounts and things like that, so you can buy in bulk. So it's as far as cost goes, a couple of grand will absolutely get rid of a magnificent beard, and it will be eradicated.
Once again, the cost level for you is going to be vastly different. It's okay for me on my fairly middle class wage to go through all this stuff. It cost me, in total probably thousands of dollars to get that work done. But yeah, there is absolutely a certain privilege that you and I have. I mean, I have my own business, so I'm in a position as well where I can self-direct and guide my own transition when it comes to the medical side of things. While others who are still living at homes, with limited income options, or people living with disabilities with limited income, these things are outside of their scope. But like I said, honey, you don't owe anyone anything for your transition. You just be what you want to be, and we'll love you nonetheless. Absolutely. So I've been sort of hovering along. I went through the pandemic stage of not doing very much at all.
Oh, I'm pandemic trans. I'm pandemic trans. I had the realization when I stopped performing, when I stopped putting the mask on for the public, and I went, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do this.
Oh, so you're relatively newer than I am.
Yeah, I'm only sort of 3 years on the hormones.
Oh, wow, I've been going at this for 7 years. Jeez. Made so much great progress.
Oh, thank you, honey. I appreciate that.
But, for me, reasons why people might get this surgery are many and varied. The one that always gets me is the honesty of children.
That's a hard one.
Yes, because they do wander around the world like they were miniature Professor Oaks asking me what my gender was.
Yeah. From the mouth of babes. There's a real...
So that's not to put that back on children. Children are children, and they are curious, and they'd like to know. Yes, a lot of embarrassed parents, but it is just the world that we live in. But it is also pretty confronting. And I know that I have a certain amount of vanity in regards to my face. So the procedures that I'm, undergoing are the same procedures that, let's just say, a hypothetical, a cisgendered middle-aged woman might undergo to renovate a face, to make it more youthful, to make it more attractive. That's exactly what these procedures are. They're just being done in such a way as to make this, what was assigned male at birth, to appear more feminine. So when I say that, there is nothing about transgender healthcare that is different from cisgendered healthcare, that is explicitly what I mean. This surgery that I'm undergoing is a thing that typically cisgendered women get. All right, we should probably talk about surgeries next, but we should also take a break and give
Let's take a break and do a song.
Yeah, let's take a song on.
Take a breather before I start describing some gruesome detail.
Yes, before we go in guns blazing. This is Guns Blazing by Liposuction. You're listening to Transmissions on 4ZZZ.
Amplifying the voices of the trans and gender non-conforming community of Meanjin, Brisbane and beyond.
Transmission on 4ZZZ brings you the latest in trans community news, music and events.
Every Tuesday from 9am till 10am.
Join our team of hosts for an hour of celebrating the unique perspectives of the trans community.
Transmission, Tuesday mornings from 9am till 10am on 4ZZZ.
4ZZZ, you're listening to Transmissions. My name's Alexis.
And my name is Sean, your abomination about town, and my pronouns are cost more than you think. She, her.
This is a wonderful improv game you've managed to create for yourself.
Yeah. Taxes my brain. And then I forget everything completely.
Well, that's good. It means you can improv it again later.
Yeah, ideally. So, dear listeners, we are talking about the process of transmedicalization, specifically around the experiences of facial feminization surgery. So, again, warning everybody, we are going to be talking about surgery. If anyone is just tuning in, we're going to be describing some potentially very heavy stuff. So gird your loins, as it were. Yes. Hey, we got a text message in saying congratulations. We had someone, a delightful person, saying congratulations on the surgery, both for myself and one of the other listeners who had texted in. So yes, I am going to be undergoing facial feminization surgery in 2 weeks. And what that looks like is I'll be receiving a lower face and neck, a deep tissue lower face and neck lift. So that will involve incisions made along my hairline, around my ears, down into my neck. The surgeon will be repositioning my face, cheeks,
that was very
and
diplomatic.
jowls, by sort of elevating them, giving me a more feminine line across my neck and jaw. There will be some cheek crafting where some of the material in my cheeks will be removed in order to give me the impression of a cheekbone, instead of having the very Irish looking, because I am from there, scrubbed potato of a face that I have will hopefully look a little bit more elegant and demure. And also in that process, I'll be receiving a subnasal lip lift. For those of you who don't know what that is, just beneath the nose, the surgeon makes an incision that's either called, well, it's sometimes referred to as a moustache lip lift or a bullhorn lip lift, owing to the shape of the sliver of flesh underneath the nose that they remove and then reduce, essentially, sew back up. So reducing the distance of the Cupid's bow from underneath the nose to the top of the lip. Because this, in the way that our biology works, in the way that we are socialized, gives a more feminine impression to the mouth and causes more of the upper lip to protrude, giving you that sort of like feminine pursed lip look. So I'll be having 3 months of recovery from literally having a man peel the flesh from my lower face, making series of incisions, and then repinning it back in a new location.
Surgery's fun.
Yeah, it's going to be...
It's distinctly not, but...
It's going to be a hell of a time.
Yes.
And the entire process is something that I've obviously spent a long time thinking about. And, and like I've been saying earlier in the show, that this surgery is not uncommon for cisgendered people. It is very much the sort of surgery that a person who had the means would be, getting a facelift to renovate them as they age. And I find that actually really interesting because there is this unspoken social contract that exists in the world around how things like cosmetic surgery is treated. We all pretend. People get to disappear for 3 months and then come back looking magnificent, and they get to say things like, "Oh, I was at the health farm and I just meditated 8 hours a day and I ate nothing but raw fruit and vegetable, and now I look magnificent." And we all nod along and say, "Yeah, okay, great." We all pretend that it is not actually some incredibly complicated, technically difficult surgery, difficult on a body to recover from. We all just pretend that it happened through the good virtue and the of the individual. When the reality is that there is a man who is going to remove my face and reattach it. And one of the problems that I have with all of this is that trans folk don't get the benefit of this unspoken social contract. We live publicly in our transitions. People know what we looked like. Part of the ways in which trans people are harmed is the active sharing of what we used to look like or what our names used to be and the lives that we used to live. And we have to sit in that when we medicalize our transition. Because people notice, people see, because we are actively changing our appearance. And people don't pretend. I'm not going to be able to suggest, "Oh no, I just had bed rest for 3 months and my face just did this." No, it is required of me to be very public about it, and I've decided to lean into it. For those of you listeners out there, I do a lot of writing online about transgender issues over at the Abomination About Town Substack, and I'm going to be writing quite extensively and, as it seems, potentially providing some photography of the entire process of what I look like before, during, and after facial feminization surgery. Again, not a testimonial, not encouraging you to undergo it, but if you're curious to know what my experience is, you can find out about that over on the Abomination About Town Substack.
Yeah, so I'll take a slightly different line through this, just to give a little bit of variation.
Fire away, because everyone's position is different, everyone's experience is different.
So you're currently looking at a local surgery. You're going to be doing this locally. So I quoted up for a foreign surgery to go.
Yes, that's right.
And that's a vastly different experience and set of thoughts again. So to give you an idea of what they suggested for me in a video chat, so I sent them a bunch of photos. They sat down, they came up with a surgical plan that they that they told back to me in a video chat.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to have a look at a forehead reconstruction. So the top third of my face, they're going to take an incision, they're going to peel that back, and then they're going to shave down parts of my brow so it looks a little bit more feminine. That's more or less what it was. Talking about the coronal part, the crown, funnily enough. And from there, they also want to do some of the rhinoplasty. It's where they take a small amount of rhinoceros and they inject...
I've had a rhinoplasty. I broke my nose like 3 times, 2 of them playing roller derby, and so I've already had a nose job, and I kept the same looking nose. Idiot. It is quite rhinoceros looking.
Yep. Oh dear. So yes, we know what a rhinoplasty is. It is just a surgery to change the shape of a nose, or to reconstruct it to the place it was to start with, as
is in my case.
Beyond that, they gave me options. Like, they also gave me the option for a lip lift as well. And they talked about chinplasty. They didn't recommend it, but they priced it for me. That's an surprisingly expensive surgery.
Really?
Yes.
Can we talk about costings on this on air? Is that something that you think that we'd be allowed to do?
Yeah, so we can talk about costing. I can't tell you which surgeon or where we're going. Although, if you do any amount of searching, this group will probably be in your top 5
top results. Yeah.
But yeah, this is an all-inclusive package. So I go to a country, which I can't name because it would obviously identify them, for 14 days. 1 day for the surgery and then 13 days of recovery days. That also includes, your general hospital and also your, any services you need, like psychological or touches up on your surgery or whatever you need at the time. It also includes your general anesthesia as well, because that's separated on your bill, so you know how much you're paying your anaesthetist, to put you to sleep.
Yeah, I was staggered when I found out how much it was going to cost for someone to knock me out. But, admittedly, it is important.
So, yeah, let's talk cost. The forehead reconstruction is just a little under €11,000, which is quite a lot of money.
Significant.
We're talking at least 20 grand right there. And then a rhinoplasty was about 8,000. So when you take all of these things into account, the only thing that it's missing is the flights to and from the place, which will be in the like thousands of dollars.
2, 3, maybe 4 grand.
But the overall quote that I was given was around €30,000, which is going to come up to about 60,000 Australian dollars.
Significant.
Yeah.
Mine worked out as around 24,000 for the surgeon's fees. I think it's about 8 to 9 for the anaesthetist, because it is a 7 to 9 hour procedure. And I think about 5 grand in hospital costs. So I'm sitting in the round just under 40K. Yeah, which is, obviously that is not an insignificant chunk of change. I've had to secure loans and dip into savings and pull all of that together.
Certainly how people pay for this is a big topic, and we'll take a little bit of time on that. Yes, taking loans against secured things like your house is an option, out of your savings if you've got them. Taking an unsecured loan for surgery is sometimes possible. You need to talk to your bank or your, various financial institutions that might fit that, like a building society. You can take it out of your super, but there is a lot of caveats around that, like where you can get it done, what sort of surgery you can get done, also how medicalised you want to go, because the government still requires you to prove that you need this surgery.
So this is still, considered and categorised as cosmetic and elective surgeries. I certainly know that my surgeon is an advocate for expanding the government's understanding of what is a medical necessary surgery for facial feminization. But, that is a long, hard road. And, obviously, as the census has taught us anything, people are going to be wringing their hands saying, oh, but what if people are going to be transitioning just because they want to go to facelift? Are you kidding me that someone would go through all of this in order to just get a nose job? No. It is a significant investment, and there are a whole bunch of different ways that you can achieve it. Very few of them are easy or cheap.
Indeed. Thank you to everyone who texted us in. Thank you for all of the big congratulations on surgery. That's very helpful to everyone who has to go through this thing. I'll guarantee you that.
It's very touching. Thank you very much, everybody.
And thank you to all of my station pals who are telling me how to do this job. We will not name you, but we will thank you anyway, because it is very important that we get these things right.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be coming up on the end of the hour.
We are going to have to talk about salty, though.
Oh, we absolutely do.
Yes. Your pronouns crack me up, Sean. Please never change being you.
Salty is magnificent. Salty, I first met Salty because we both went to the same gym, and we just got chatting, and then bumped into each other here, and we're like, what the hell? It was like that Spider-Man meme where we're just pointing at each other. Yeah. All right.
So, any final thoughts?
I think final thoughts on this is that, remember, you don't owe anyone anything about your transition. And this is just our personal experiences and the way that we as individuals are navigating it. You are magnificent. If you are trans, I don't care how you look. I believe you. And you deserve to be believed and treated with respect.
Yeah, I'm very much for that. And you should always have the choice to do whatever you need to do to make yourself comfortable. That's a totally reasonable thing. We'd always advocate for some amount of support for people to get that.
And ultimately, I mean, it's sort of the biggest disagreement. We've talked about the census, we've talked about Australian laws, we've talked about all sorts of things. The biggest thing that it all boils down to is giving trans and non-binary people, agency over their own lives. And this father knows best attitude that comes from the Australian political landscape is causing harm, into our communities.
All right, we should probably end it right there. Thank you for joining us for Transmissions today.
It's been a delight seeing you all and speaking to you all today. Thank you very much, Alexis.
Transmission will be back next week, probably with something less surgical.
But not me. You won't hear from me for a few weeks, because if I was on here, I'd be like...
But yeah, we'll probably do a follow-up at some point.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Because we definitely want to keep this conversation going.
You can hear the sound of my new face.
Yeah. In the meantime, we should probably leave with a song. How about I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye!
Thank you so much for listening to Transmission. See you next Tuesday, 9 to 10 a.m. on 4ZZZ.